that your lines have been muted. If you wish to communicate with the speaker or myself, please use the private chat or the raise hand function. If you experience any issues with the audio during the session, please send me a private chat. If you have questions related to content, please submit them via the Q&A and the speakers will answer them at the end of the session. You will be informed once the recording of the session is available. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Harish to begin the session. Harish, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manmeet.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, Manmeet. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome who is joining fresh today and did not attend yesterday's session. Yesterday, we discussed overview of SAP Sales Cloud V2, and we saw some of the features in Sales Cloud V2. Hope you got some time to digest that information. And for today, we will be doing a deep dive into some of the admin features. We'll be looking at some of the settings for those features which we discussed yesterday. So let's get into it. Disclaimer. So agenda over today and tomorrow, we will be discussing these topics, starting with onboarding, where we will discuss about how do you get access, how do we provision tenants, how do you get support. We'll jump into the setup. How does it work in Sales Cloud V2? We'll also look at fundamentals, which is the foundational pieces into Sales Cloud V2. We'll discuss, look at the master data and some of the settings available there. For tomorrow, we'll be discussing Sales Cloud V2 features and settings there. So starting with onboarding. So for those who haven't seen the help page for Sales Cloud V2, as I pointed out yesterday, that there is already a help page for SAP Sales Cloud V2. You have an option there, onboarding, where you can look at all the different provisioning options available. So let's get into that page for you. So when you land at help page for Sales Cloud V2, you have something called onboarding. So now when you look at the onboarding, you have information such as getting access, getting started, getting support. So under getting access, you have information like how do you get your user IDs, and this is a generic S user ID or partner ID through partner portal. Getting access has information about how to purchase product, provisioning, and information like that. So when you go to getting started, you will see that the information mentioned here is that you can get Sales Cloud V2 provision through SAP for me, and then all various options are listed here. Similarly, you can see provisioning and what do you have to do to get the Sales Cloud V2 provision. And of course, this is from the point of view of customer provisioning. You can also look at your partner provisioning based on your partner engagement and access to partner portal. Lastly, there is a tab which talks about getting support in case you are facing any issues in getting access or provisioning. You can hop into this and raise an incident, and then SAP team will respond accordingly. So that's at brief how you can get started with the onboarding process regarding access and provisioning. That's available on help page for Sales Cloud V2. So these slides give you more information about it, where you can look at it. Now, setup. So Sales Cloud V2 has a different paradigm of working. So the settings in Sales Cloud V2 is different compared to V1. So if you look at this screenshot, you see that there is a settings button, and that's where basically all the settings are located. So let's jump onto the system to see what we are talking about. All right. So here I have logged in as an admin user. Now you can see my homepage, which we also briefly glanced upon yesterday. You can see different tiles, different cards here. On the right side, you have the user menu. And when you click that, you have adaptation option, and we'll discuss about this in a bit. You have settings. So now this is where all your settings are done in Sales Cloud V2. Uh, Before jumping onto that, we look at different options like different apps. So SAP Build app, Qualtrics Discover. This icon talks about notification, which is pretty similar to V1. This is favorites. This is getting support. So this will open the inbuilt support for you and information regarding that. And then the last icon is about the CTI widget integration. So if you have CTI integrated, you will click this and it will open it up. We have global search, which we briefly touched upon yesterday. Then we have the main navigation menu, which you can see all the options, which we saw yesterday as well. So let's get into settings. All right. So in the settings, you have dashboard where if you have any of the settings pinned, you will see them there. You also have a tab which notes your recent visited settings. So that's listed here. You have all settings. This is basically where all settings are located. And you can look through or search through this as well. So for example, if I wanted to see settings for lead, this will bring up the settings for lead. So that's how you do settings in Sales Cloud V2. And some of these we will cover today in today's session, and we'll open these settings and go through them. Okay, so we looked at settings, we looked at searching settings. Now we looked at this as well, whereas we went through different icons on the shell bar. So we went through that. We talked about global search. So let's go into the systems and look into global search. Okay, so this was the search I showed you yesterday. That's global search. For example, if I search for IXO, which is an account, you see all the information listed there by entity, say account, your lead opportunities, contacts, things like that. Task, product. So you can say show more. It will show you, it will take you to the detailed view of that. So for example, if I say opportunity, here you have option of different filters as well. So you can set up further filters and search by that. So now when coming back to settings, so if you look at settings for a global search, you would say global search, and then you would have settings here. So let's see what are the settings for global search. And this is a dev system, so it takes a bit of time to load. Refresh this a bit. So now, if you look at the global search settings, you have two settings there basically. One is for filter configuration and one is for search admin settings. So when you look at the filter configurations, what you see is the entities listed here and different filters available for that particular entity. So you can add a different field which will pick up, say for example, ID. You could add this and then that will bring that up in the global search filter. So that's how the filter works. If you look at the search admin settings, this is talking about hover. So when you hover on a global search, you see that saved searches popped up, right? So that's another thing. You can save your searches from global search and use them later. So that pop-up setting is here, where if you don't want that pop-up there, you can turn it off. That'll that will switch that setting off. That's about global search. We talked about filter settings and the admin settings. So now let's talk about the general settings where we have company settings, the branding, language and region. And this is something which we had in V2 as well, those settings. We have content security policy settings, that's new. Extensibility, you know, the extensibility options have changed, so we'll look at that as well. We have homepage settings as well. So let's hop on to the system and look at these settings quickly. Uh, if I say general settings. So let's go through this one by one quickly to give you an idea that what kind of settings are there under general. So auto sign out, this is for, you know, these settings are under company settings. So this is applied company wide, or you have an option of setting this via a business role or for a particular business role as well. So you can see the auto sign out option there, and then you can set that up for a particular group of users using business roles as well. We have branding setting here, and then in branding settings, we have three options here. Logo, which appears on your login page, just above your user ID and password screen. And then we have option of setting that logo in shell bar as well, which is basically this one. So that you can do for your desktop version as well as your mobile version. So that's the setting about logo. Now, if you look at this, this is about tab configurations. So the default one is this. So what this does is basically, this is an image which pops up when you close all the tabs. And once we have gone through all these settings under general, I'll show you that in the system, how does it look like. You also have option of, you know, plain page. You can also put your brand logo. Login image. So when we log in into the systems, you see this image on the left-hand side. So there are by default 5 rotating images here, so which keeps changing for the login page, but you can also upload your custom images here via a simple drag and drop. So that's about branding. Let's get over to language and region. So you have currency options, and these options were there in V1 as well. So you have currency options, you can switch it on. You have language options, basically all the available languages, and you can switch it on or off. We have time zone settings for setting your time zones. Country and region settings for setting your country and region. Fiscal period, so this is different for different zones and regions, so you can set this fiscal period. And you also have exchange rate option where you can maintain exchange rate for a particular currency. For example, you can see for US dollar, there are 3 exchange rates maintained. So let's see for euro, for example, for these maintained, and you can simply maintain it from here. So that's about language and region settings. Content security policy, and this is a new thing which is provided where you can set these options to avoid, say for example, cross script breaches, your some sort of code injection breach. So to avoid those, you have all those options where you can say a script source, you can style source and default source. You can also say frame ancestor. So all those settings which will protect you from any sort of breach. So coming to home page, you have a default image. You can change that and then it sets up that image. So those are provided by default. You can also put a custom image there for home page. Language adaptation. So this is this was there in V1 as well. So now you can how this works is for a particular application. When you select, for example, account service, source language, and then target language, for example, I want to convert it to, say, Dutch. So when you go there, you can see all the labels which are used under account service, and then you have the standard text, the source text, which is also editable, by the way. If your business wants to see this label text as a different text, they can do that. But for our language translations, you can maintain target text. So for this case, we selected Dutch. So for this source text, you can maintain the Dutch text. So that's language adaptations for you. So this tab configurations, I'll just show you how does it look like. So we have 3 tabs open, settings tab, home tab. When I close this home tab, you see this image. That's what was that tab configuration. So let's open home again. I'll go back to our slides. So we covered all these options, company logo, login image, language and region. On home page, you basically have all these cards which can be displayed: greeting card, message card, news card, video thumbnail card, quick link cards, learning content, and video dashboard. So if you remember, homepage has all this cards. So that's what it is talking about. So that's what you can display. Extensibility. So the concept of extensibility has changed a little bit. We had field extensions in V1 as well. So we have that. So you can add your custom fields. And these are the options which are in-app. So basically, you're not coding this anywhere. This is a configuration for you. So you have basically 3 options. Extension field, which is adding your custom fields. Determination rules, where you can set some rules. And we'll look at that in the system, and validation rules. So if you want to put some sort of validations into a process, you can put that validation. So extension fields. So let's jump over to the system and see that for ourselves. So extensibility is going to administration, and I'll look for opportunity service, right? So there is opportunity service. So now you see there are these custom fields. So you can, if you want to add custom field, you can just quickly add it from here. So where you can maintain a label, for example, test 1, and then you can select a data type for that particular field. So that's your custom field. You can set the field attributes for those fields, where you can say they are creatable, updatable, or nullable. Then we have something called validation. So this is something which you can set in the process. Let's look at one validation. So now if you look at this screen, so there are 3 parts to it. The header part, which basically has entity, your validation name. So for example, test 1, and a description, validation. Then we have a condition block, where you can say conditions are met or not met. So basically this is defining when this validation will be triggered, when the conditions are met or when the conditions are not met. You can enter a field. For example, if you can say start date, and then you have the operator is greater than, then you have the option of value of field. So I'll say value, then it says greater than 25th. So now, and you can add more conditions using or operator. Now in action block, you have 2 options. Show error, either you can show error message for this particular validation, in which case the flow will stop. Or you can show warning message when the conditions are met. Remember, we have selected conditions are met. Then it says future, for example. So then this will show up in opportunity when the start date is greater than today's date, right? So that's about validation. So let's look at determination. So determination is where you can set a particular, uh, put a particular custom logic into a flow, for example, or basically this is for achieving automation as well. So um, same arrangement, you have header field where you can say uh, the name, then you have the entity, you have choose event. So now there are two options here, pre-hook and post-hook. So what are they about? Pre-hook is where if you selected pre-hook, so if you want to say populate a value on a field, when say sales rep opens this opportunity, then um, you can use pre-hook and then value is populated, but the sales rep can then override or basically change it. When you select post-hook, that means that it's not changeable. So right, once you have put in there, it will stay here. So it will not change. So basically that's coming after the event. So let's select pre-hook, say test. Now if you look at the condition block, you have same. So now let's put an example where we say if the status of the opportunity is equal to say 1, then you can put an assignment block saying that, okay, I want to put the sales phase to close, right? So you have equals to, then you can put an expression. So now it gives me option of, where do you want to, how, what do you want to set sales phase to? I can say close, right? And then close that expression. So that's how it will work. So when an opportunity is set, the status is set as 1, so the sales phase will be automatically set to close, right? So there is one more option where uh, you have this if condition. You can also write an else condition for that. So that's basically about how determination work. So now we have looked at the extensibility options, which was custom field attributes we have seen. We have seen validation, how would it work, and we have seen determination. Let's jump onto the slide. So we talked about extension fields, how you can add a custom field in a particular service or an entity. We have talked about validation rules. I've talked about determination. So that's basically about all the three options available for extensibility in Sales Cloud V2 for in-app extensibility. Remember, we discussed about side-by-side extensions and using build or BTP as well. So that's another option available to you. So next topic is company. So let's hop onto the system and see the settings for company. So again, close this. Again, I'll look for company settings. So now I have the company settings. So what do I have here? Org structure, your employees, distribution channel, and division. Let's go into this. So these are basically your org structures, which is a lot in the system. So there are these org structures. You can also look at the hierarchical view. I'm not going to put it into hierarchical view because there are a lot of organizations here. You can filter it by function as well. For example, you can say show me only org units where the sales the function is sales organization, right? Or sales, or the company is associated with. So that you can filter it by these attributes as well. Going over to employee. So now this is basically all your employees in the system. So they are listed here. Which org unit they belong to, what manager, business partner IDs. You can create an employee here. For example, through this, you can create an employee. distribution channel, you can create your distribution channels and your divisions here. So that's basically your settings under company setting options. Let's go into slides. So we discussed org structure, employees, division, and distribution channel. We have seen that in system. So now coming to users and controls, and this is where you set your business roles, you create your users. If you have any identity provider configurations for your SSO, you have an option to configure that here, and you have security policies basically where we will set the password security policies. So let's jump into the system and look at these one by one. So let's look at the users. So there are these users. Let's open, say, let's look for myself so I can see my user. Now you can see the employee data. You have user details, and security policy is maintained here, basically, which is the standard one. We will look at that in a moment. And you can go over to assign business roles. So the admin for sales and services assigned to me or my user. So you can also look for business roles from here and then assign it to them or to this particular user. So that's about users. So let's go back to the settings. You have business roles. So this also works similar to V1, but we have the contents are different. So let's look at this admin role, for example. So now you have something called business services, which is basically, if you look at this, all the capabilities combined as a or delivered as a service in Sales Cloud V2. Remember I said that this is microservices based architecture. So all these are basically services now. The read access, write access and restriction rule basically comes over from V1, now used to handle it. And you can look for a service from here. You can look for a service and you can search for a service and assign it as well. So for example, case is already assigned. So if it wasn't, you can add it from here. And then you have basically app list, which is your appointment, for example, cases. There are all these apps which we are using for your UI. So that's your business role. Then you can go to the tab assign business users. You can see there are 2 users assigned to this particular role. And you can also assign, so remember you can assign business roles to a user from the user's screen. And then from here, if you open a business role and you wanted to assign users, for example, you are creating a business role and then you want to assign certain users to them directly, you can do it from here. So this will give you all the users here and then you can assign it. And then you have changes tab, which basically lists down all the change log, which is filterable as well. We can see that, you can filter it by who changed it, what dates, and what kind of change was it, create or update. So those are the options under business roles. Identity provider configuration. So this is for your identity provider where you can enable your single sign-on. You configure your identity providers here. Last option under user and control is the security policies, and let's look at the standard one. So you can see that this is the default password policy for business users. You can set it for default. You can maintain, the minimum number of characters, what kind of combination you want, lowercase, alphabetical, alphabets, digits, special characters, and all of that. Number of, allowed number of incorrect attempts, history, basically everything related to the password. You can maintain it here. And remember, I showed you that was assigned to the user. So that's how it will take effect. So that's all about your user and control. So let's go over to the slides. So basically, we covered users, business roles, identity provider configuration, and security policies under this. So data administration. Under this options, you can say, for example, maintain attachment types, MIME types for for attachments. You can maintain um, the settings for change history, audit logs, and note types as well. So let's jump onto the system and see that data administration. Now we have data administration, so you can maintain attachment types here. So one of my colleagues has maintained this. You can then assign these attachment types to your business services. Basically, wanted to assign this to, say, for example, opportunity, you can select that and then select opportunity from the list, right? So that's how it will work. You have change history configurations. So you can filter it by, say, for example, lead. So you'll see all the change history on the lead object. And then you also have option of filtering it by different attributes and what kind of change it was it create and update. That's for change history. Similarly, you have audit log here as well, which will record audit logs based on event type as well. So let me show you the filters, event type. Then you have these event types listed here. Here you can say, I wanted to see only successful logins. So show me audit log for successful logins. You can see that. You can also filter it by a particular service. So remember, these services were listed there in the business role, right, to be assigned to particular business roles and ultimately to users. You can select MIME types, which are allowed, including file extensions. You can see some of these are maintained here. When you come to attachment configuration, you can set the size of attachment and maximum is 200 MB. You can set the size of attachment and related settings as well. You can set different note types and then you can assign those note types to business services, right? So that's basically what you can do under data administration, basically related to attachment, change history, audit log, and note type. You can also set MIME type for the attachments as well. So those are all settings under this. So we covered attachment type, change history, audit logs, MIME types for attachments, the configurations where you can set the attachment size, etc. You can set note types and then note assignment to a particular service. Coming to master data, so we'll discuss master data. Okay. Customers in the system. So let's look at the customers in the systems directly. And see, I mean, it's very easy to search for it and then it brings over all the available options for that settings. And then you can basically collapse this side panel or open this side panels to see all the options available under that particular tab, right? So you have ABC classification, which you can maintain. You can maintain payment terms. You can maintain customer groups here. You have all the other reasons for delivery, billing, order block. You can also maintain price groups, price list, delivery priorities. You can maintain roles. That's where you maintain your, say, for example, prospect or customer. You can also maintain Nielsen IDs based on if it is maintained in your ERP systems. So that's customers. So there is another set of information for customers, which is basically customer insights. So let's open this. Customer insights. So let's look at the customer insights. So these are the matrices or insights which you see if I open an account, and I'll quickly show you an account once you have gone through settings. So now you can see the key matrices which are shown on a particular account or a customer. So you can toggle between visible and you can hide them. That's for key matrices. Same for highlight. You can set a certain settings. For example, number of days within which you want to see your appointments. You can set it, say, 8 days. You can set opportunities. For this, you have to maintain your fiscal periods. Remember, we went over that under general settings. You set the fiscal periods. Quotes, you can choose to highlight this um, for quotes, saying that after before how many number of days the quote is expiring, it will show you it in highlights. Your leads, cases, all these options are available in highlights. You have a timeline filter where you can filter what kind of interactions you want to filter timeline with, and what kind of objects you want to filter timeline with. So we'll quickly look at that as well. So last is integration. So some of these key matrices are, say, for example, open or recent invoices, credit limit usage. All of the data comes from S4 system. So that's where you have to have that integration in place. So let's quickly look at an account to see what we were talking about. See, let's open. So quick view of Kixo, which is an account maintained in the system. You can see highlights. So let's open the full view, overview. So here you can see the matrices which were there in the settings. So there are matrices maintained here. Once you have your S4 integration, you will be able to see credit limit usage and recent invoices kind of settings. And then these are the highlights where we had a setting for highlights. These are the highlight settings. Timeline filter, you have these options here. So when you can filter your timeline with these interaction entities, for example, with phone calls or emails or chat. So these settings were there where you can switch it off. For example, you want to only filter by email or phone calls. You don't have chat channel anyways, so you just want you don't want that option there. So you can um, disable it, and save similarly you can filter it by entity. So if I filtered it by opportunity, for example, it will just show me the events related to the opportunity. You can see it here. The events are filtered in the timeline only related to opportunity. So that's what we were talking about when we were discussing the um, customer insight settings. Let's jump over to slides. Well, that's customer settings. We discussed about that. Products. So let's quickly talk about products and look at products in the system. So you have products. So you have registered products, which products which are bought and registered with you. That's especially useful in case of a service scenario when you have to raise a case and work through a case. You can include your registered products. If you look at the and you can maintain categories and party type there. If you look at the products, let's see what kind of settings we have in the system. We have unit of measure setting. You can set unit of measure. Basically, you can create one. Status schema. So what is the status schema for a particular product? And then you can see what status they are in. Number range for product, and then product group. So you can see you can maintain product group here. For example, this is only level 1. So if I wanted to maintain something under this, we can maintain under it, say this, like that. So and it's simply okay. Um, and then similarly, you can say you can maintain it for a multi-level as well. So if we wanted to go under this beer, light beer, you can say strong beer, something like that. So that's basically how you maintain your product groups, which you will use while creating your product. So let's hop on to the presentation. So we discussed product, data import and export. So this capability provides you with the option of bringing data into the system, um, and as well as taking data out of the system. Let's hop onto the system and look at the data import. So close the product. we have data import and export. So you have a monitoring option here. You can see basically what is running. There was one task which I was running. So you can look at that. You can filter it by what it is, what the task was about. Was it import or export? Um, you can also filter it by file type, which is we have two options, Excel and CSV. Created on status, in process, completed with errors. Entity name, so basically what entity you're running it for. So here, if you look at this, you have option of download template. So if you click on that, you get the option of selecting an entity. For example, opportunity. Then you have an option of downloading in CSV or Excel. So basically that will give you a template. If you populate that template and then you use import to import that into the system. So then you can say opportunity, and basically the populated file is dragged and dropped here. That will create a task here with the task type import, and then entity name opportunity for in our example, and then you can see you can monitor the status here basically. Similarly, you can export, so you can take out, say for example, all the opportunities in the system. So you can again choose the file type. You can also apply any filters for that particular for that entity opportunity, right? So you can filter it by all these attributes where you can say uh, category, prospect for consulting, or opportunity score. For example, if you wanted to export only opportunities which have score lower than 50, for example, so that will only export them. So this basically gives you option to bring data into the solution or take data out of the solution based on those entities. So let's open to the system. So that's covered. So all the options, all the entities available now. So that's basically it. One more thing I want to touch upon today would be adaptations, and we had questions yesterday, regarding that. So adaptations, similar options, you can go into start adaptations. Basically that goes into adaptation mode, and you're looking at this home screen. So you can manage this section. You can create a section. If I say manage sections, you can see all the cards here, or you can edit this section as well. So let's create a section and add a message card. Say, okay. You can have a button here as well, and you can change the background color. So for example, I say blue, apply, and that comes up here. So that's for your home screen. How can you adapt your home screen? Let's look at a lead, for example, to get an idea about how does it work for the entities or the services, right? So let's me choose all leads. So let me open a lead, and then you also have those options highlighted here, for example, right? So you can add that, um, add or remove fields. In the lead search as well, for example, here, if you wanted to quickly say hide source, for example, you don't want to see source in the search result, you can just say hide and immediately it's reflected. Then you say show hidden fields, you see this is hidden, it brings it back. So that basically gives you an idea about how can you adapt your screens. The capabilities are similar to what we had in the V1 system. Um, okay, so with that we have come to an end for the session today. Tomorrow we'll be discussing about Sales Cloud V2 features, and we'll go over some of the settings for guided selling, for example, lead pipeline management. We'll talk about analytics, and then what are the options available there. We'll touch upon Teams integration. There are a couple of things which we did not go over today was mashup, autoflow, and survey. We'll cover them tomorrow. Auto flow is basically your business flow, and we'll look at that tomorrow. And then lastly, survey. So those are the items for tomorrow. So now that's it from my side. If there are any questions, you can go over it. Okay. Can you create plans in order and set roadmap? So the roadmap related questions, Rishi or Vinay, do you know this? The plans in the org structure?
Yeah, Risha, most of them I'm trying to answer on chat itself.
Okay,
Let
okay.
me go through
So
if there are any pending ones. Yeah.
Harish,
yeah,
let's do one thing.
yeah,
All the questions that are there in the pending Q&A, we will answer it tomorrow because we are already running out of time. So we will one shot, we will upload every question, answered questions on the community so
yeah.
that,
So
that will become referenceable. Yeah.
yeah, so
Mhm.
Prasad, please quickly touch upon that for 30 seconds for audiences who have
Yeah.
joined it today, so that they
Yeah.
have idea about what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Hi guys. If you are joined today and if you don't know about the community discussion that we are using, so for the same this program perspective, I've created a link and in the partner delivery community, all the questions, we are requesting you to raise it. And I know that, you guys are comfortable in putting it on a Zoom Q&A. What we have done, we have answered all the questions and updated in the discussion. So anytime you can go and refer to that question and answer session discussion. So that will be really useful for you now and in the future. Yeah. So we are going to do the same thing. Many of the questions already answered. I can see that the 34 questions already answered and the remaining 14 will be answered by us, and you can see all the questions for day 2 in the community. Yeah,
Thanks, Prasad.
fantastic. All right, and with that, I would say thank you, Harish, for a wonderful presentation, and thank you, Rishi and Vinay, for answering all the question as and when it comes. That's really great, and have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow.
Thanks everyone for joining today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. Bye-bye. So, Harish,
Thanks,
should I
Manmeet.
end the meeting now?
Yeah,
All
done.
right. So
Thank you,
have a good
Manmeet,
day.
for
Yeah.
your assistance. Thank you. You too.
Manmeet,
Bye.
if you can, I'm sure there will be a email will be sent out to me with all
Sure.
the Q&A and participations. And please do not send the recording link to anybody. We will be sending out the consolidated link. Okay.
Sorry, can you please repeat again? Because I was not able to hear your voice clearly.
No worries. Please do not send out this today's recording to all the participants. I will be sending out the program, all the 5 days of recording to all the participants once the program is over. Okay.
Okay, so we don't have to publish the recording now, right?
That's correct. That's
So
exactly
when we
correct.
have to publish it?
Once the program is over, the program is going to get over on 31st of May, and then we will send out the one single communication for all the presentation and the 5 days of recording and to all the participants. Okay.
All right, sure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye. यहाँ पे भी आ गया मेरे